Okay, so when you're factoring polynomials, the first thing you want to make sure is it's placed in order in terms of the powers on the variables. The exponents are in order. Factor out any common terms. Take out any numbers that are in common of every term, or any variables that are in common. And then you want to factor into two sets of parentheses if you can. Sometimes you're only going to factor out and then you'll be done. You have to remember when there's a 1 in front of your x squared term most of the time. It's most of the time x squared. You want to make sure the last terms multiply and the middle terms will add or subtract together. And then if a is not equal to 1, that should be not equal to, sorry. Then the factors must multiply the last term, but then you have to check your inners and your outers. So, for example 1, I want to make sure my variables are in order first, so I want to rewrite it as x to the third, negative x to the third, plus x squared, plus 12x. So I want to see what's in common of all those terms. I have an x in all of them that I could take out. And if that first term's negative, you always want to factor out a negative just to make it easier to factor after you factor out that negative. So if I factor out a negative x out of each term, the first one I'd have x squared. And if I factor in a negative, it's going to switch my sign. So it'd be minus x and minus 12. So that negative x is still going to stay there. And then I want to factor into two sets of parentheses. So this one I have a 1 in front of my x squared. So I know my first two terms are going to be x and x, because that's the only way I'm going to get x squared. I need to multiply to my last and add or subtract to my middle. So I want to multiply to 12. So I want to see what multiplies to 12. So 4 and 3 I know multiply to 12. Do they subtract to 1? 4 and 3 will subtract to 1. So now I just have to make sure my signs are right. If that's a minus, a negative 12, 1 will be plus and 1 will be minus. And then if that's a negative 1, I want my larger 1 to be negative. So I get a negative 1. So negative x times x minus 4 times x plus 3 would be my answer. Factored completely. Next one. My powers are already in order. So I want to see if there's anything I could take out of 6x to the 4th, 27x to the 3rd. So I want to figure out what I can factor out of 6, 27, and 15. I know 3 goes into 6. So I take out a 3. So I'd have, and I could take out 2 x's. Get rid of that. So I could take out x squared. So if I take out a 3x squared, I'm going to have 2x squared. Take out a 3x squared out of negative 27, x to the 3rd, I'd have minus 9x. Take out a 3x squared out of my last term, I'm going to have minus 5 and no x's. So 3x squared is going to stay there. I want to factor into 2. But this time I have a 1, something other than a 1 in front of my x squared. So I have to get 2x and 1x. It's the only way I'm going to get 2x squared. Now I want to check for my 5s. Or multiply to my 5. So if I put a 5 here and a 1 here, if I check my outers and my inners are going to give me 2x. My inners are going to give me 5x. And that does not add or subtract to 9. So I know 5 and 1 aren't going to work. So get rid of that. Now if I put a 1 and a 5 and check my outers and my inners, I'm going to get 10x and 1x, not a 5x. That will subtract to 9. Now I just have to make sure my I have a negative 9, so I want my 10 to be negative. That goes with my 5. And my 1 to be positive, and that goes with my 1. So your answer would be 3x squared, 2x plus 1, and x minus 5.